Hi, here we are. So this video today is for my friend Catherine. Catherine, say hi.
Hi.
A friend of Catherine needed some pants hemmed, and so she was asking me for some tips, and we thought, well, you guys all have pants to hem, or at least us vertically challenged people do, and so I thought I would share with you those tips. And not many of you think about my little friend here. This is, if you're being correct, it is a multi-tool, but a lot of us call this a hump jumper. So why a hump jumper? Its first kind of function is to put my needle in, and I use it for that purpose all the time, no matter what machine I'm on. If I'm on an Epic 95Q or a featherweight, I'm going to use this to properly hold my needle in place. There's videos on our channel here if you look back, to put my needle in place and change out my needle so that I know that it is all the way up in its proper seated position before I turn the screw and put it in place. That's function number one. It is also a button reed. So when I use it in its capacity for a button reed, if I was doing an overcoat and I wanted to sew on a button, well, you all know I'm not going to do it by hand. Heaven forbid. I'm going to use this in between. I'm going to rest my button on top, and the machine is going to sew that button in place using this like a spacer. So I'm going to end up with a tall enough shank on that button that doesn't have a shank so that it can easily go through the hole and not be puckered too close, right? So it leaves me enough room for the thickness of the overcoat or whatever to be in place. So that's function number two. But today we're going to use it in its third capacity, so we're going to use it as a hump jumper. So have you ever tried to hem a pair of jeans and you get to that seam where it's really thick and heavy and ouch, I broke a needle, or I have ugly stitches that are skipped and or not sewn down at all? That's where this puppy comes in. So I have the pants here, and they're kind of clipped into place. So they've been trimmed to the right size and turned under so that my raw edge is on the inside. Then it's turned over one more time. This would be the final length of my jeans. And I have my machine set to heavy woven for my fabric selector. So it has brought my stitch length to a 3. I agree with that. And I've started off all the way to the left and brought my stitches back so that when I look here and I put my pants in place, that my stitches, see if you can tell here, you can see my hem, right?
So when I go in,
you can see that that's the inner edge of that hem. So my stitches are going to come in just to the right of that inner hem so that they'll be nice and straight, they'll catch, they won't flap, right? So I want my stitches to land right about here so that it's not on the edge, because then I could miss a spot and then I'd have a gap here. I also don't want them over here, because if I have my stitches there, I end up with this wonky bit on the inside, and it could catch when they're putting their pants on and rip out the hem that I just worked hard to put on. I'm not working that hard, but you get me. So I'm gonna start, I always start on the inseam, right? So here's my inseam where the legs come in. And the reason I'm going to start on my inseam is when my two lines of stitches, right, my whole line of stitches, my start and my stop come together. If it's on the inseam and I'm not exactly perfect, if somebody's looking at your inseam that close, you have a problem. So here we go. We're going to put We're going to start just before that hump. Oops. There we go. I got to get that clip out of the way. And I'm just going to let it rip. I don't need to really backstitch because I'm going to go over those stitches a bit at the end. So I'm going to pull my clip, going to get my hump jumper ready, and I'm going to go. So this is where the trouble begins. If you look at my foot, it's down in the back a bit, and it's trying to get up over that hump in the fabric, but it's not doing well. So anytime my foot is not flat, it's not gonna feed well. So I'm gonna go one more stitch, and then I'm gonna put my needle down and my foot up. I'm gonna take my hump jumper on this side opposite of the needle position side, right? So this little bit right there, I'm gonna stick it behind my foot. And now I'm using an A foot because I have that nice opening. I can see where the gap is in the hump jumper so that I'm not gonna hit it with my needle. I'm gonna just keep going. And see how the hump jumper keeps that foot nice and flat, and it feeds the fabric through. I gotta take this out. Now we're on the other side of the hump. So now when I'm coming in, I'm gonna stop right there. See how now it's dipping low in the front and high on the back. And I don't want that either because the same thing happens. We want it to feed evenly. So I'm gonna raise my foot with my needle down, and I'm gonna put my hump jumper in place and let it feed through. Is my hand in the way? Sorry. All right, so we're gonna keep going. And I got all that way, right? Now now that I'm gonna be flat, I can just take it out and go. So look at that. So you can't hardly tell there, but when I look on the other side, 0 skipped stitches, people, 0. I'm gonna keep going. No skipped stitches, no gap. Here we are again. I'm gonna put my needle down, put my foot up, bring in my hump jumper. I need a little more room. Put it down. One more time. Foot down, up. I can readjust. Don't be afraid to stop and make an adjustment. You're not locked in and no one's filming you. Now I'm at the end. I'm low in the front and high in the back. I can come from this side and do the same thing. Now take it out and finish. Here come my clips. All the way around to my front. Then I'm gonna overlap my stitch just a bit, and I can hit stop. It'll tie off, or I could reverse and cut. And if we look here on the inside, I have all beautiful stitches, even in that ugly little spot. It's gorgeous, and it's perfect and so easy. So when you look for your hump jumper, just be happy, say thank you, and I guess that's all I have to say about that. Oh, don't forget to like us and give us thumbs up and share, because that helps other people find us and they can learn the virtues of the hump jumper. Now it's all I have to say about that. Keep stitching.
Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome, honey.